Alright, so I'm gonna be honest with y'all real quick. When I was watching this game live, it was like a 15-point game at halftime, so I went and made some food because I was hungry. Then I came back to the end of the third quarter to see Anthony Edwards hitting a ridiculous shot to give the Timberwolves a lead heading into the fourth. And I knew immediately that I had to rewatch this game because boy were Jamal Murray and Anthony Edwards straight up hooping. The Nuggets would end up winning this game by 9, but I don't really care about that for the sake of this video. In this one, I just want to break down the epic duel between Jamal Murray and Anthony Edwards, as in this one, Jamal Murray finished with 40 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in 38 minutes, while Anthony Edwards on the other side For starters, both guys came out looking to score. Here on the opening possession, we can see they're running an action. Looks like it's supposed to be for Jokic, but with Cat fronting, Jamal just uses Jokic as a second screener and gets the wide open midi pull-up. Then on the other side of the court, we see Anthony Edwards get the ball and isolate Aaron Gordon. A great first step gets Aaron Gordon to sag off, and Anthony Edwards hits the pull-up ISO 3. And from this point, Jamal Murray really took over this first quarter by being aggressive and staying aggressive for the entire time that he was out there. It was clear that he wanted to have some impact on this first quarter. These plays include a tough step back 3 at the end of the shot clock, a very patented Jamal Murray bucket. We then even see him playing some defense, getting into the passing lane, and ultimately getting the easy dunk because of it. On this play, we get a bit of a double feature as we see Ant drive to the rim, not be able to get the shot to go in, and just no one picks up Jamal Murray in transition. Cat does not get a good enough closeout, and that is just another easy hit from 3 for Jamal Murray in transition. And then Murray wrapped it up with this nice little handoff from Jokic, drives right at Karl-Anthony Towns, getting him into the early foul trouble, and Murray would end up finishing the first quarter with 14 points as he helped Denver grow that early lead as they would end the first quarter with a 31-22 advantage. Anthony Edwards, on the other hand, after that initial made 3, took some time to get comfortable and get acclimated to the game, and he did some things other than scoring the ball. For starters, in transition, Gobert sets him a screen and Edwards throws a great one-handed bounce pass around Jokic that leads to a foul on Michael Porter Jr. As fun as Anthony Edwards is to watch play, these are the types of plays that really excite me, because if he can upgrade that playmaking to another level, then he has very few limits on what his ceiling could be once he hits his true prime. He then shows off some of the defense here as Jamal Murray comes and sets the screen for Jokic on the 5-1 pick and roll. Edwards forced a switch onto Jokic and actually strips the ball on the drive, which against a 2-time rating MVP is not a bad play at all. And then finally, we just have another really simple pick and roll with Gobert where Jokic is too far back into the drop and gets a late contest, but it does not matter. Anthony Edwards is that nice. In total, he would finish the quarter with 8 points, so not exactly matching Murray, so I will give the advantage to Jamal in this first quarter, but nonetheless, they were getting loose early on. Now, both Murray and Edwards would be subbed out with about a minute to go in the first, so we will fast forward to the second quarter, which was relatively quiet overall, but again, we'll get into it. Anthony Edwards would end up checking in at around the 9:45 mark, and in his 3.5 minutes about that he was on the bench, Denver went on a 8-3 run, so Finch wanted to get his star player back into the game. And Ant would immediately get to work. He initially gets walled off on this drive, but ultimately stays in the play and makes a great cut near the end of the shot clock to get the layup. And in fact, this was the first made field goal for Minnesota since the 3-minute mark of the first quarter, meaning that yes, they did not score a single basket while Anthony Edwards was on the bench. Then a little bit later on, we see Anthony Edwards get the ball swung to him in the corner where he has a nice step back 3 after the pump fake to lose the defender. Cool, calm, and collected as usual. And although Edwards did not score another basket for the rest of the quarter, what really shined through was his defense in this one. He had 2 pretty insane blocks, which both were somehow not the most insane block in the game for Edwards, but unfortunately at the same time, neither block really mattered because Denver would just score the ball pretty easily after the fact anyway. Edwards would then sub out again with about a minute left in the quarter, and at this point Denver was winning 64-44, meaning that Denver outscored Minnesota 25-22 in the about 8-ish minutes that Edwards was on the court. Again, just another sign that Edwards was keeping them competitive in this game for the first half. Which, funny enough, in the last minute after Edwards subbed out, Minnesota did actually go on a quick little 5-0 run to cut the lead to 15 at the half, but I digress. And switching over to Jamal Murray, his second quarter, as I mentioned earlier, was relatively quiet and even more quiet than Edwards, as Murray finished the quarter with 2 buckets, 2 great buckets, 2 solid buckets, but in the end, 2 buckets regardless. I will give the advantage to Ant for the second quarter. Now the second half is where shit really started to get interesting, as we saw Minnesota slowly but surely cut into this Denver lead, and at the same time Murray would just continue to hit big shot after big shot to stop Edwards in whatever run Minnesota was going on. Both guys would play the entire third quarter. Murray finished with 12 and Edwards finished with 13, but again, we'll get into the good stuff. Despite the fact that this play didn't actually end in a made shot, but rather free throws, I still just wanted to highlight how amazing Jamal Murray is at navigating through the defense and picks and just in the paint in general, because he really snaked his way to the paint and then just used his size on Mike Conley. Eventually Gobert had to crash back and foul him. Solid play by Murray. Then here we see Anthony Edwards with another nice assist, this time to Karl-Anthony Towns, as Aaron Gordon was just caught off of Cat a little bit too far. And this assist would help cut the lead to 10 for the first time in quite a while. And it was at this point where Anthony Edwards really started to get loose and get rowdy, as we see him explode with the dunk in transition. Then next, again showing off the defensive plays, as he had an insane block on Nikola Jokic rotating over as the secondary rim protector. And then he would finish this little run that he has with a tough transition 3 right over Aaron Gordon to cut the lead to 5. And I think it was at this point where it was safe to say that Anthony Edwards was truly on fire. And then Anthony Edwards would continue this onslaught with 2 very quick and easy buckets. And again, these is able to score so effortlessly early in the shot clock, the chip away at this lead. He's someone that for sure will be able to go and get you a But rest assured, Jamal Murray would not be silenced, as he was the one who would go on his own little run or spark a run for Denver near the end of the third quarter. As here, now the game tied after the Anthony Edwards onslaught, and we see Jamal Murray run off a direct handoff with Jokic into the pull-up 3, and that is just a really tough shot to guard, especially when Jamal Murray has it going like this. Then Anthony Edwards would answer back a few possessions later with a nice pump fake and drive and great agility to avoid the Jokic charge attempt to get another very easy lay-in. Then back to Jamal Murray. First, he walks into a deep isolation 3 at the end of the shot clock, this is just such a ridiculous shot to hit. And then he somehow one-ups it with just a ridiculous, filthy spin move into the jumper. Completely lost his man, and I just to say it again, when Jamal Murray has it cooking like But then somehow the most ridiculous shot of this end of quarter stretch here was this almost buzzer beater by Anthony Edwards. 6 seconds, takes the screen from Karl-Anthony Towns. Jeff Green switches on and plays pretty perfect defense. A great contest from Christian Braun on the outside too, and Edwards just somehow banks it in. Now in total this quarter, both guards had pretty similar production, but I will give the slight advantage to Edwards just because of the fact that Denver was outscored by Minnesota 40-23, and Minnesota ended up with the lead by the end of the quarter after being down by 21, so slight advantage to Edwards. I'll also say that because the fourth quarter was mostly Denver's. Both Jamal Murray and Anthony Edwards started the fourth quarter on the bench, but it was a short rest for Edwards, as once again the Timberwolves were pissing down their legs with him not on the court, as a quick Denver 6-0 run prompted Chris Finch to yet again put in his star to save the bleeding. But ironically enough, at the same time, Ant Edwards didn't really do much until Jamal Murray checked in at the 9:30 mark, where Ant finally scored his first points of the quarter at the free throw line. And let me just tell you now, it was straight buckets from this point on from these two guards. It all starts at this play here, where at the end of the shot clock, Michael Porter Jr. and Bruce Brown had a miscommunication that left Anthony Edwards, of all people, wide open on the three-point line, and he calmly sinks this catch-and-shoot 3. Then next is my personal favorite play of the game from Anthony Edwards, where he posts up Bruce Brown, faces up, and then hits the MJ Kobe Bryant fadeaway. And on the broadcast, you could also hear him yelling "woo" as he made the shot, which just makes it a million times better.
As we cross the 7-minute mark, spinning, hanging, puts it in.
But by this point, Jamal Murray had had enough of Minnesota holding on to the lead, and he really showed out for the last 6 or so minutes of this fourth quarter. Here he's posting up Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the elbow, gets the entry pass, goes to work, and eventually is double teamed, and he fires a pass off for the easy bucket. Then we even saw him hustling on the defensive side of the ball. Weird rebounding situation leads to Mike Conley getting open for a three, but Jamal Murray with the great closeout gets a hand on the ball and holds on, protects this 4-point lead for Denver. Then a couple possessions later, we see Jamal Murray again receive some screens. First Jokic screen doesn't do that well, so he goes right back to it. Catches Anthony Edwards, who is forced to go under, and that is just something you cannot do against Jamal Murray, especially when he has 30-odd points like he does here. Then the next time down the court, Denver goes right back to Jamal Murray. Again, Jokic just setting him high ball screens. Murray again does a great job of snaking his way into the paint. Rudy Gobert drops off, and Edwards does not get back in time, and it is too wide open of a midi for someone this hot. Now switching back to Edwards, who at this point is in desperation mode. I really liked this. I don't know if Finch ran this play on purpose. And then finally, as we're getting down to the wire here, Jamal Murray, one last bucket to get. Again, running through the high ball screens, steps back on Mike Conley, and that is just a tough shot to hit. Ultimately, likely was the dagger in this game, as it's a 9-point lead with just under 2 minutes to go. And finally, we get one last hurrah from Anthony Edwards, who just hits a ridiculous fading baseline shot over Nikola Jokic and two other defenders. And yeah, it's tough to see that in a losing effort. But again, Anthony Edwards is just an absurd shot maker at the age of 21. Overall, again, this was just a all-time duel. It came at great timing too, because up until this point in the playoffs, we hadn't had any really big performances. At least, no one had scored 40 points. And then in this one game, we have two guys go back and forth and an epic duel. At this point, I think it's safe to say that Jamal Murray is a certified playoff riser. We saw it in the bubble. We're now seeing him start to do it again and start cooking, and I'm excited to see what he's got for the rest of these playoffs. And a similar thing for Anthony Edwards. I mean, I showed you some specific things like his burst of speed when he's attacking the rim. He's a deadly shooter when he's got it going, and just some of the plays he makes are just stuff that you rarely see on a basketball court. And for those reasons, Anthony Edwards is another player that I am really excited to see what his future holds in the league. I really hope Minnesota figures their shit out this offseason, because this is a talent that should not be being held back by other bad players like Rudy Gobert and at times Karl-Anthony Towns. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the little breakdown of the Battle of the Guards. If you enjoyed this video, enjoy this type of content, for sure hit the like button, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you want to hear more from me, you can follow me over on Twitter. I'll put the @ on the bottom of the video here, but that's enough from me. Hope you guys have a good one. See you.